you have to realize that depression and anxiety and mental health and mental illness, it's it's a struggle that if you don't know what it's like, then you should be very grateful and thankful for that. If you're somebody who's gone through depression and has battled through it and is still alive today, look, you got to understand something. Not everyone that's depressed is going to be suicidal. And maybe some have that tendency of thinking about it. It is not an easy thing to talk about. And as a society, we fail each other miserably when it comes to mental health. We fail each other horribly. Actually, it's astounding how we haven't done anything yet to try and help each other, I don't know, be able to talk about it more. And as somebody who goes through it myself, I got to be honest with you, it is one of the most damning things to go through. And there's people on the show crew that, has gone through it, and I give them space. I give a lot of people space when I know, because I'm the same way. If I go through something like I am going through right now, I isolate. And I know we talked about isolation at the beginning of the episode, but going through a dark time is not the easiest. You don't want to always look. My social battery has been very low, and going back and scrubbing through some of the podcast episodes that have been done lately, I've noticed that with myself, that it's difficult sometimes to do the show, especially when it goes 3 hours. I try to cut it down to an hour and a half to 2 hours. I think that's a good sweet spot for time. I mean, sometimes these shows do go on 3 hours, and sometimes we lose track of time. It depends on who's in the studio, what we're talking about, and what we're doing. But my social battery it's been very low. And when you fall down these, and I've talked about this with Jeff Pierce when I did that episode with him at his tattoo parlor. And to be honest with you, dude, it's like when you go down these dark pits that you fall down into, and look, you can sit there and you can say, hey, just think about brighter days ahead. Yeah, and I say that. I look forward to brighter days. I always say that. But at the time, it's like, this is a dark hole. And I think of it like this. Depression is like falling into a huge vat of oil, and you're just being sunk down and you're drowning. That's how I feel about depression. You're getting sucked down into a vat of oil, and you are trying to reach up for something, maybe somebody to grab down and grab you out of it. But it's sometimes hopeless. And I think some people are in that vat of oil and they sink to the bottom. And that's unfortunately where people are no longer with us anymore. But, it's something that I will say, it's like waves. Everyone's depression, everyone's mental illness and health and all that stuff is different. I'm not going to sit here and compare myself to other people or anything like that. And I think it's not fair to, because who are we to, understand someone else's situations? But I will say, like, in my own form of battles that I've gone through with mental health, that's kind of how I feel. And it's not easy for me to talk about. I talked about this with Jeff. I go, I've confided in people in the past before, in my early 20s, my teens and all that stuff. And then basically what you say to them, it either gets spread around or it gets used against you, and then you just shut yourself down. You go, fuck it, I'm just gonna bottle this shit up and cope in different ways. And I think that's the problem, is that we don't take it seriously enough where other people can, you feel comfortable enough to talk to somebody else. And I get this also, because I don't like when people say, well, you should always, it's like, okay, but everyone's going through something. But here's the thing, have a little compassion. And I've reached out to friends and stuff, even now, going through this shit, and I've asked how they are. And I'm not a big social guy. It's always been a hard thing. I've gone through social anxiety a lot of my life, and this is one of those things that helped me get through that, is being behind this microphone and camera. Somebody who's never done this before probably would have the hardest time if they were me. And that's because I've gotten used to it over the time. I've programmed myself to feel a little bit more comfortable being in front of a camera and on a microphone and all that stuff. This is one of the most difficult things for me to do, is a show by myself. Not easy. I like to have the back and forth. I do. I love it. It's great. So when I do an episode like this, it's more or less just like an inner monologue to a degree. But I get to chat with you on the chat. You get to call in, and that's a fun part for me too. But I also like to incorporate the recorded episodes like I did with Jeff, and that's coming soon. They're actually gonna have more. I have a few people that I've talked to that some are scheduled and some aren't yet, but it's coming. And the reason why I like to record some of these interviews is because it's less distracting. I'm not focusing on this, that, and the other. I think it's cool to be able to have that one-on-one conversation. But when it comes to like socializing with mental health issues and stuff like that, it's not always easy. And I think a lot of us out there that don't reach out, myself included, is, I guess I understand it from a point where I'm like, okay, this person has something going on too, and I'm not gonna drag them down even further. I mean, they have enough on their plate. And I know it's probably a bad idea to think. You don't know what somebody's going through, okay? So you could reach out to somebody, tell them how you feel. But at the same time, they're also drowning in this vat of oil of their own. And you don't know it. Maybe you do. I don't know. So I guess my question is, how do we at least come to a middle ground where we can both help each other out of these vats of oil, which is depression? How do we help each other out of it without dragging one another down or making yourself feel like a burden to that person? Or how do you go about it where you feel you can both help each other, lift each other up in some way, shape, or form? That in itself should be a conversation. What can we do to also combat mental illness in this society that we live in? I mean, look, we have the high cost of living. We have the divisiveness in our country, let alone the world. We have a lot of things going against us as people, as human beings. But at the same time, it doesn't have to be all doom and gloom. We can find something within the noise to get through it. And that's the part that I wish we would look at a little bit more, take a little bit more seriously.